Have you ever wondered what it takes to be good at fighting games, or understand why they're as difficult as they are? I'll be talking about just that topic in this video. But first, are you currently playing fighting games or thinking about getting into them? Let me know in the comments.
Finish him!
People look at fighting games and just see another video game playing on the screen, then shrug it off as a waste of time.
It's a waste of time, you know.
But what they're not seeing is what goes on behind closed doors away from a tournament or off stream. Fighting games are a different breed from your average video game. Competitive and skill-based. It can take a few years before you're actually solid in understanding the depth of which fighting games can present themselves with. So, why are fighting games actually difficult? Well, it's because they require multiple skill sets and concepts that can be difficult to learn or understand. But fighting games are a journey, not a sprint. If you're just getting into them, have fun with the process and try to be open-minded when it comes to learning something new.
Tatsumaki Senpukyak!
Frame data has always been a thing since the early 90s with Street Fighter 2, but didn't really become mainstream and studied until 2008, around when Street Fighter 4 came out. It's the measurement at which the speed of moves are, the advantage or disadvantage on block, hit, and block stun, as well as whiff recovery. Knowing this information could be the difference between an okay player and a good player, but wasn't the end-all be-all of what it took to become a great player. Today, people that want to get into fighting games think that learning frame data can be nerdy, or say things like, I don't want to do math for a fighting game, when frame data is actually a very small part in learning fighting games once you get to a higher level. The only things regarding frame data people need to be aware of are startup frames, advantage and disadvantage on block. It can be a much more complex concept the higher level you get. Starting out, just keep it simple.
Get over here!
Neutral has to be one of the most important parts of a fighting game, but also one of the most difficult. It's when you and your opponent are both at a state of nothingness, where both players are just dancing around looking for that time to strike. Except players can change up their timing on just about everything, making it very hard to read someone. They can change when they press a button, throw a fireball, walk forward, backward, or jump. In lower levels, players will like to jump, so having a good anti-air game can make you jump in skill pretty far. High-level players will do things in neutral that, to the eye of a less experienced player, will look like gibberish or basic, when in actuality, there were two layers of mind games that went behind that interaction. This skill alone can take years, and I mean years, to actually get down and understand. So don't beat yourself up if you're losing neutral interactions frequently. It's a very complex skill to master.
I wanna take you for a ride.
Learning how to read your opponent and what they do in each specific situation can take a long time to learn. I would say this skill is just as hard to learn as having a good neutral game. How do they like to move? When do they throw a fireball or just do some kind of neutral skip move? There are counters to moves in all fighting games, so learning to read your opponent and countering them is very important. Otherwise, you're gonna get gimmicked to death and only get frustrated. Here's an excerpt from an article I found on pattern recognition that talks about how to develop them. Chess masters become masters through hours of rigorous practice. Regular, consistent practice is the only way to develop your pattern recognition skills to a high level. The way you practice is similarly important. It needs to be deliberate and challenging. Practice just outside of your comfort zone and force yourself to learn from experts, masters, and novices. This way you'll see patterns emerging and develop a keener eye for patterns.
Okay!
Fighting games have been compared to learning a martial art, but not in that sense that it's physical, but that it can be mentally demanding. If you're serious about getting good at fighting games, even if you're just a casual, it can take serious discipline and many hours of playing, and I don't mean just playing against other people. I mean going into training mode, studying your character's moves, combos, and frame data, as well as the rest of the roster. We live in the information age, so getting info on what to practice and get good at is at your fingertips. YouTube and the internet in general is a great source of learning from other players. Which concepts to know and learn at your level. How to play your character or beat other characters. Now, I know not everyone wants to be a top level player, but what it takes to get there is endless studying of matchups, your opponents, and new strategies you can adapt to your gameplay or specific matchup. Pro players that compete consistently play the game up to 8 to 10 hours a day. On top of studying strategies, matchups, and their rival opponents they may come across in tournament. Look, fighting games are inherently difficult by nature. It's how they were designed. They're a 99% skill and 1% luck type of game. They take years of practice to really get good at and understand. So if you're not trying to study numbers, figure out the game's mechanics, or just really try to learn, then fighting games are not for you. They are a genre of game meant to keep your mind sharp and essentially teach you how to learn. If you're on the cusp of playing fighting games but you're not sure, just dive in. It's a journey, an adventure. Have fun with the learning process and make new friends or new rivals along the way. The fighting game community is your oyster.